A veritable who's who of government land and wildlife department officials gathered at the Bureau of Land Management on Saturday morning to celebrate the 10th anniversary of its National Landscape Conservation System.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
The system is one of the newest conservation systems that we have. It was first established 10 years ago by then Secretary Babbitt when he envisioned a new conservation standard for the Bureau of Land Management. This standard embodied conserving, protecting, and restoring BLM's specially protected places.
So we've tried to focus our efforts here that we're going to be able to hone in on a number of things in the NLCS system that are going to help us move forward. There's three things that we're looking at. We're going to focus on taking care of the values and protect and enhance those values for which these systems were set up. We're going to focus on working with our gateway communities like Safford. You guys are one of the best examples in the whole state and probably the whole nation of communities that work with the BLM. Last but certainly not the least is engaging our youth in how we do our work on the NLCS units.
Bonnet Creek, I can remember as a ranch con, I would go out there, Cowboy River had that as a ranch. The road was nothing. The city of Safford had their place out there. Matter of fact, one of the first things I went to was with Lynn Celine and myself. We went out to trespass the city because they were stealing gravel off the public lands. You know, we would play, Pony Express in the evenings, and we would gallop across those sandbars and hand our saddlebags off to each other in the river. And nobody cared about that country.
All of us who live in the West are extraordinarily fortunate, and I think all of us realize that because there is so much public land in the West, and we have these landscapes that on a daily basis sort of affect and direct our lives, and I think we take it for granted sometimes. A small example, earlier this week I was out at the Muleshoe Ranch, which is a cooperative project, as John just said, between BLM, the Conservancy, and the Forest Service. Bob Rogers, who's the resident manager there, and I were back in the backcountry, and both of us were constantly astonished because every time we'd come around a curve, there'd be a big south-facing slope that was just solid wildflowers. And, you know, we see that every spring, but not like this spring. And there are two reasons for that. The obvious one is that we got a hell of a lot of rain this year. It made an enormous difference. The other one's not so obvious, and it has a lot to do with the partnership with the Bureau. Over the years, BLM and the Nature Conservancy at both Muleshoe and Aravaipa, because of management decisions that were put in place early on, created the enabling conditions to really get fire back in the landscape. We've done an awful lot of prescribed burning at both Muleshoe and Aravaipa. And as we drove through the Muleshoe earlier this week, everywhere that we have burned in recent years was covered with wildflowers. And it really showed some of the rejuvenating effects of prescribed fire. And we would never have been able to do that without the enormous contributions of the Bureau into that prescribed fire effort.
After the ceremony, the BLM hosted 3 separate tours through the Gila Box Riparian Conservation Area and 1 tour through the Aravaipa Canyon Wilderness Area.
most of the men came by boat, and the people who went overland with Kearney were part of the 1st Dragoons and Mormon Battalion, and of course some artillery. The only battle in Arizona was against like 10 or 15 bulls, and that was down on the San Pedro. They killed like 15 cows, wild cows. And the other part of Kearney's command got left up in Taos. So, and then he met some more men up in California that had come by ocean. I am not sure. This has been here for quite a while.
Answer. This was through the Arizona State Parks with the Trails Heritage Grant, and those are usually 3 years that you live to get it finished. So it's a really good program. Couldn't do it without them. Of course, now they're having such problems. There's no heritage money, so that makes it tough.
Hey, Jeff. Hold on.
I mean, it was a happening scene. I guess.
Did you see the? Did you see the?
I think he just likes the shade and doesn't want to go.
Feels good right here.
It does. This is awesome.
Have anything you want to say to people that might be thinking about coming out to the Gila Box? You encourage them to come check out the trail or anything?
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
it's great. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, we've gotten really good comments on the people that have come out here and used the trail, and you can camp, you can bird watch, you can play in the water, so all kinds of things to do. My favorite place on the trail is where the Kearney Monument is because of the lookout.
Just be respectful of cultural sites if you come across them. Don't leave it like you found it, please.
This has been John Johnson reporting from the Gila Box Riparian Conservation Area for the Eastern Arizona Courier in Safford, Arizona.